It all started back when my dad brought his old war buddy's daughter home. I never expected to catch feelings for her. What I expected even less was that my absolute best bro was also secretly pining for her. In my past life, thanks to the brilliant instigation of that so-called good bro, I confessed my feelings to her right before the most important college entrance exam. It only took her half an hour to reject me with the warmth of an iceberg. Consequently, my mental state shattered. I failed the exam epically, and my disappointed parents kicked me out. Meanwhile, that bro rode the wave of being a nice guy and smoothly became my family's son-in-law. But when I opened my eyes again, boom, I had respawned. I was reborn into the past. Even though the disastrous confession had just happened, I still had 30 minutes before the college entrance exams started. This time, I had zero interest in suffering for the sake of unrequited love. Armed with the maxed-out experience and knowledge from my previous life, plus a spoiler guide to the future, I just want to speedrun my way into Crown University, the top Ivy League of the country, and live a fabulous, drama-free life. With 30 minutes left on the clock, a non-biological older sister, Stella, came looking for me. "I'll just treat whatever nonsense you spouted yesterday as a joke," she said, a voice cooler than the other side of the pillow. "Focus on your exam now. 2 months from now, I'll be waiting for you at Southwest University." I turned to look at Stella. She was wearing her military uniform, her face as stoic as ever, her posture tall, slender, and undeniably attractive. Seeing me stay silent, she frowned slightly. That was the wake-up call I needed. I snapped back to reality, immediately grabbed my pencil case, and said, "Hey SS, exams starting. Got a blast." Stella froze. She probably didn't expect the kid who used to cling to her like a lost puppy to just dip so decisively. I didn't care about Stella's bewildered expression anymore. I sprinted outside, hailed a cab, and headed straight to the exam center. I was never going to chase after Stella ever again, just to avoid ruining my entire life. This time, I was grabbing my second chance by the horns. For this exam, I was going to aim for the absolute top, get into a prestigious university, and spread my wings to see the different landscapes of the world. By the time I finished my last paper and strutted out of the exam hall, the sun was already setting. Reporters were swarming the outside, trying to interview the stressed-out student. I tried to nudge my way through the crowd, but a smartphone suddenly blocked my path. "Hey, Dylan, rumor has it you got brutally rejected after a love confession yesterday. Did that ruin your exam vibe today?" Before I could even answer, a figure emerged from the crowd, wearing a crisp white shirt and a short haircut. It was Trent. "Guys, please stop asking," Trent shouted. "Dylan just got rejected right before the exam. His mental state is terrible right now." There it is. That classic, hypocritical just protecting my bro act. The painful memories of my past life flooded back into my mind. Every single tragedy I suffered was basically sponsored by this good bro. The one who goaded me into confessing was Trent. The one who caused my parents to disown me was Trent. Later, when I saw his smug face standing next to Stella, I finally understood everything. The reason Trent did all of this was because he coveted Stella too. My miserable past life was just a stepping stone for his romantic comedy to restart. I shoved Trent, who was about to keep acting, out of the way and calmly faced the reporters. "There's nothing wrong with liking someone, and confessing is definitely not a crime," I said smoothly. "But those trivial matters don't affect me at all. I'm 100% confident I aced this exam. Thanks, everyone." At that moment, the golden hour sunlight draped over me, my shadow stretching long and heroic on the ground. I walked briskly toward my house. In my past life, I had dreamed of returning to this safe haven countless times. Finally, the dream was a reality. Suddenly, a familiar, loving voice rang out. I looked up and saw my dad, just as I remembered him. He was waiting for me under the big old locust tree near the school gate. My dad looked at me, a hint of disappointment flashing in his eyes. "I heard everything you said to Stella yesterday." He sighed heavily. "I didn't even dare tell your mother. Stella is your sister, Dylan." Looking at his worried face, my heart suddenly ached. In my past life, because of that foolish confession, I became the center of toxic gossip. My parents were dragged into a whirlpool of cruel public opinion. Overnight, their hair turned completely white. Looking at his thin face, as I walked beside him, I just wanted to run up and hug his arm. "Dad, I confused dependence with romantic love. From now on, I will only treat Stella as my older sister, nothing more." The gloomy cloud on my dad's face finally lifted a bit. The two of us pushed the gate open, only to find Stella already waiting at the door. Dad patted my shoulder and went inside. The evening sun cast a soft glow on Stella's usually cold face. The two of us stared at each other in silence for a long time. Finally, I took the initiative to smile and speak up. "Hey, my crazy rambling yesterday probably annoyed you. I wasn't thinking straight. I sincerely apologize. Please don't let it bother you. From now on, we're going to be family, forever. Hearing my perfectly calm explanation, a weird spark of annoyance inexplicably flared up in Stella's chest. Just yesterday, I was holding her hand, declaring my love. Yet overnight, my attitude had done a 180-degree flip. Had I really let go of those inappropriate feelings, or was I just playing hard to get? Stella looked at me with her usual lecturing gaze. It's good that you think that way. The college exam is an important turning point in a person's life. You need to focus on the right path. I kept my smile and nodded. Della pulled out a university brochure from her room and handed it to me. The cutoff score for Southwest University is always very high. You need to give it your absolute best to get into that dream school. I looked down. In my hand was the admission poster for Southwest University. My smile hitched for a second, but I didn't say anything. In my past life, all my efforts were just a desperate attempt to chase Stella. That's why I chose to apply to Southwest U, located right next to her military base. The result, not only did I fail to catch her, but I also ended up with a lifetime of misery. It was hard enough to get a second chance at life. This time, I wanted to stay true to my own choices. Crown University was where I truly wanted to go. I wanted to study linguistics, my absolute passion, explore diverse cultures, feel the customs of different ethnicities, and write it all down so the world could understand and love this land more. Watching Stella walk back to her room, I decided to keep my university switch a secret for now. After all, we were going to have separate lives anyway. Thinking that I didn't say anything more, I grabbed my books, went back to my room, turned on the radio, and started reviewing my notes, immersing myself in the field I actually cared about. I didn't emerge until dinner time. It had been so long since I saw my whole family gathered around the dinner table like this. In my past life, the scandals made me too ashamed to go home. I wandered everywhere like a homeless stray. This was the exact scene I'd yearned for. Thinking about it, I felt a lump in my throat. Villain, what's on your mind? Did you not do well on the test? Mom asked, and
putting an extra piece of egg into my bowl. I shook my head and smiled. No, Mom, I did really well. Mom immediately beamed. That's wonderful. Are you confident you'll get into Southwest U? Your sister works near there. She can take good care of you.
My mom still hadn't noticed my change. She continued, your dad and I are getting old. College is far from home, and the coursework is heavy, so you won't be able to visit off. Having your sister there puts our minds at ease. The words got stuck in my throat, but I still wasn't ready to drop the truth. I'll be 18 by the end of this summer. Mom, I'm going to learn how to take care of myself. Don't worry. After dinner, I was planning to help Mom wash the dishes, but she shooed me away to shower and rest early. As I stepped out of the bathroom, drying my hair, I suddenly saw a familiar silhouette standing in the middle of the courtyard. Della's voice rang out calmly. During dinner, it looked like you had something you wanted to say, right? My hand paused. In my past life, I always followed Stella around like a little Tay. While she was entirely focused on her career, she only wanted to fulfill the mission of defending the border that Uncle Fan had left behind. She never bothered to look at the little brother trailing behind her. I never expected her to care this much about my feelings now. I gave a faint smile. It's nothing. Just suddenly thought about leaving home soon, so I felt a bit nostalgic. Under the hazy moonlight, Stella looked at her little brother, who was still a head shorter than her. For some unknown reason, she felt like I had become distant, no longer as easy to read as before. I quietly looked at the twinkling stars in the night sky. Later on, there probably wouldn't be many chances to enjoy this kind of peace. A teacher once told me, after entering college, your hometown loses the concept of spring and autumn. Only winter and summer remain. The older we get, the fewer times we return home. The two of us fell into silence, a strained, eerie silence. Right at that moment, Mom walked out of the kitchen. Stella, the matchmaker just dropped by. She wants to introduce you to someone, Trent. He wants to set up a blind date with you. Why don't you meet him before you head back to the army and see how it goes? Hearing this, Stella immediately nodded in agreement. Sure, Mom. You arrange it. Great. Mom laughed happily. I'll tell the matchmaker. I'll set up a meeting with Trent in the next day or two. I know that boy's character well. If you guys click, then it's decided. When you go back to the army, you'll have someone to take care of you. After my mom walked away, I looked at Stella, who was also preparing to go inside. Remembering Trent's toxic and evil nature from my past life, I couldn't help but open my mouth to warn her. Zetha, Trent isn't as simple as he appeared. You should be careful on your blind date tomorrow. Stella frowned, turning to look at me strictly. Dylan, you really have changed. Trent is your best bro. How can you badmouth him behind his back like that? Saying that, she stepped into her room and slammed the door shut. I stood there, stunned. It turned out that in my past life, I completely failed to realize how much Stella trusted and offended Trent. A wave of helplessness washed over me. It seemed I was worrying too much. Oh well, whoever ends up by her side in the future has nothing to do with me anymore. I quietly went back to my room, turned off the light, and fell asleep. I needed enough sleep for tomorrow's exam. At exactly 7:30 the next morning, my alarm went off. I ate breakfast quickly, double-checked my exam ID and pens, and headed to the exam room. When I handed in my paper and walked out, my tense expression finally relaxed. I'd stayed up to review a bit more last night, and luckily, it paid off. This time, I was definitely going to get results beyond my expectations. I smiled confidently, marking the end my grueling study days. The exam was over. Time ticked away, and the final bell rang. All subjects were complete. Over a decade of schooling was condensed into those exam papers. I slowly walked out of the room, shedding all my burdens, feeling light and completely relaxed. In a great mood, I headed back to the village entrance. But as soon as I stepped through the gates, I noticed everyone looking at me with weird, marking stares. I had only taken a few steps when the malicious insults pierced my ears. "That's the Smith family's brat. Heard he dared to propose to his own sister the other day. What a morally bankrupt degenerate. What university would even take him? His grandfather is so unlucky to have such a shameless descendant. Must have placed the ancestral graves wrong. If he was my kid, I'd have beaten him to death long ago. He's got thick skin, all right. Humiliated the whole Phoenix village, and still has the nerve to show his face." Hearing those words, my body felt like it was plunged into an ice cellar. I felt like I was returning to the nightmare of my past life. Back then, the news of my confession spread through the village overnight. My mind went blank, and I was so ashamed. I wanted to dig a hole and hide. By the time I wanted to explain, it was too late. No one believed me. It even dragged my parents down, with people cursing them, saying a foolish child is the parent's sin. My hands clenched into fists. I turned around, held my head high, and faced the crowd. "Listen up, aunties and uncles," I announced loudly and clearly. "Stella and I share absolutely no blood relation, so there's nothing degenerate here. Liking someone isn't a crime. I was just young and naive, and temporarily failed to distinguish between reliance and romantic love. I've thought it through now. Whoever Stella marries in the future, I will sincerely bless her. But if you all continue to spread malicious rumors behind my back, don't blame me for calling the police for defamation. Slander is a serious crime. Having lived a full lifetime, I knew full well that rumors spread further if you stay silent. Running away only makes things worse. This time, I was never going to run away again. The people around were intimidated by my fierce and righteous aura. Everyone instantly went quiet. I walked briskly straight home. As soon as I walked in, Mom was carrying food from the kitchen. "Everything's cooked. Just waiting for your sister to come back, and we can eat. Go wash your hands." I took the plate from her and asked casually, "Where did Stella go?" Mom smiled radiantly. "Your sister finally opened her mind. Isn't tomorrow her blind date with Trent? He went to town to buy some gifts for him." I listened silently, my heart completely undisturbed. The only thing that surprised me was that Stella valued Trent that much. A person who always kept to herself and never really cared deeply about anyone was actually taking the time to pick out a gift for him. Just as the last dish was served, Stella arrived home. She was carrying various large and small shopping bags. I glanced over and saw a branded shirt, a bag, and a leather belt inside. "Oh my, Stella, why did you buy so much?" Mom asked with a smile as Stella walked in. "I bought some things for you, and Dad too," Stella replied. "You've worked hard, so I wanted to get you some gifts." "You silly girl, you just started working. You need to save money for the future. We don't lack anything." I just quietly listened to their conversation, not interjecting a single word. I silently ate my favorite braised pork, then stood up and went to my room. As soon as I entered, the framed photo of Stella and me on the desk caught my eye. I slowly walked closer, looking at the two people in the frame smiling brightly. Memories rushed back. From the first day Stella stepped into this house, she had always treated me well. When I was 10 and caught a cold after playing in the rain, Stella used a warm towel to cool my fever and stayed up all night watching over me. When I was 12 and bullied by older students, Stella didn't hesitate to stand up for me. That was the first time an honors student like her yelled at and warned others just for me. When I was 15 and got lost in the woods behind the mountain because I was playing around, Stella panicked and searched for me all night, then carried me home on her back. But later, when Stella joined the army, our relationship drifted apart. And now, she was about to get married and build a new I was also heading to Crown U for college. These memories would eventually fade into oblivion. I suppressed my emotions, pulled out an old cardboard box from the closet, and packed every single souvenir related to Stella inside to put away. that included our only photo together, a cute pencil case she gave me, and childhood toys. I set the neatly packed box aside, planning to throw it all away tomorrow morning. The next morning, as soon as I stepped out of my room, hugging the box, the door opposite mine opened. Stella had taken off her old military uniform and replaced it with a pristine, brand new pink dress. She glanced at the box in my hands and asked calmly, "What are you taking outside?" "Just some old study materials and some childhood toys," I replied calmly. "I'm planning to donate them to the orphanage." Stella just nodded, not asking any further. She walked straight to the front gate, but right before leaving, she turned and added, "Tell Mom for me, I won't be back for dinner tonight." I stood there, watching her silhouette leave the courtyard, then looked down at the photo of us placed right at the top of the box. My eyes narrowed, and a self-mocking smile tugged at my lips. Stella truly didn't care about me anymore, to the point where she didn't even recognize that the frame was the only photo we had ever taken together. A moment later, I walked out to the street. I decisively threw that entire pile of old stuff into a roadside trash can. After breakfast, I took a bus to town. I planned to buy some personal items to prepare for college. I walked from the north to the south of the city, hitting up countless bookstores, before finally finding a detailed guidebook about Crown University. Next, I went to a mall and bought a new thermos and some daily necessities like a wash basin. Finally, passing by a pharmacy, remembering my mom's coughing last night, I went in and bought some vitamins and cough syrup for her. Looking at the bulky bags in my hands, I was about to head to the bus station to go back to the village. But as I passed a jewelry store, a highly enthusiastic voice from a salesgirl echoed from inside, "This watch truly suits you perfectly, sir." Hearing that, I instinctively glanced inside. Stella and Trent, their silhouettes instantly caught my eye. I saw Stella gently holding Trent's hand, trying a luxurious watch on his wrist. A perfect match. Those were the only words that popped into my head at that moment. Witnessing this scene, my heart didn't feel a single ripple. I casually looked away and was about to walk off, but Trent had quickly wrapped his arm around Stella's waist and walked out of the store with her. "Oh, Dylan, what a coincidence," I replied indifferently. "I just came to buy some supplies." Trent's face clearly showed smugness. He kept smiling and said, "Stella and I just had a successful blind date. We're practically getting married soon. You don't mind, do you?" As he spoke, he purposely kept flipping his hand back and forth, showing off the expensive watch on his wrist. I didn't even bother taking a good look. Maintaining my calm tone, I said, "Of course, I don't mind. I've already made up my mind to stay away from you guys, so whatever you do has nothing to do with me anymore." Trent suddenly froze in shock. He probably never expected my reaction to be so cold. Things were going completely off his script. He forced a stiff smile and deliberately said to the woman standing next to him, "Well, we'll be family soon, anyway. Stella's brother is my brother." Stella looked at Trent gently, then gave a slight nod. I just smiled and didn't say another word. Having survived the bitterness of my past life, I fully understood Trent's true colors. I didn't want to get tangled up with him any further, and I would never consider him a friend. The smile on Trent's face became even more forced. "Stella and I still need to shop for a few more things. Why don't you tag along?" "No need. I'm done shopping, so I'll head back first." I flatly refused without a second of hesitation and immediately got on a bus to go home. Stella stood still, staring intently at my fading back. Her eyes suddenly became quiet, dark, and highly complicated, but ultimately she remained silent. When I got home, I gave the vitamins and cough syrup to my mom, then quietly went back to my room. I sat down at my desk excitedly, opened the Crown University guidebook, and started reading. I was completely captivated by the rich culture of the school, reading so intently that I didn't even notice it had gotten dark. Just then, there was a knock on the door. I got up to open it and saw Stella standing there. "I saw your light was still on. Why are you up so late?" I replied softly. "I'm about to go to bed." Stella observed me closely, then slightly furrowed her brows. She clearly felt that my attitude toward her lately had become exceedingly cold. This inadvertently burst a strange, indescribable sense of annoyance in her heart. She glanced around the room and noticed that the familiar corner of my desk was now empty. "Where's the photo frame you usually keep on your desk?" I glanced back at the desk. A harmless lie immediately slipped out. "I sent it for repairs, for some unknown reason." Right after hearing my answer, the suffocating feeling in her chest eased up a bit. "Get some rest then. Good night." Saying that, she turned and went back to her room. In my past life, I never dared to lie to Stella because she could always see right through me. But now, she couldn't detect my lies at all. I marked myself internally, closed the door, and fell asleep. Over the next few days, besides reading, I just quietly waited for my exam results. As for Stella, she left early and came home late every day, busy nurturing her romance with Trent. Life quietly passed by until June 24th, the day the college entrance exam scores were announced. Early in the morning, I went to school to check my score. Just as I arrived at the gate, a white Centurner abruptly pulled up. "Dylan, are you here to check your scores too?" I was about to ignore it, but I realized someone was calling my name. Turning around, a beautiful girl stepped out of the car. She smiled radiantly. I suddenly remembered she was Serena, a classmate of mine. Serena's family background was incredibly prominent. She was a true heiress from a powerful family, but before this, we had never spoken more than a few sentences. I nodded a polite greeting. Serena didn't mind my aloofness at all. She naturally walked up. "Let's go. Let's head in together." We walked into the teacher's office together. When I received my scorecard, even though I had estimated my score beforehand, my chest still heaved with tension. My hands trembled slightly, my heart pounding as I opened it, my eyes glued to the final total score line. The black and white numbers were clear on the paper. I scored 689. Every tense nerve finally relaxed. I had researched Crown University's cutoff scores over the years, and they all hovered around 670. With this score, Crown U was a guaranteed lock. I thanked Mr. Wang, my teacher, and rushed out, eager to go home and share the good news with my parents, but I couldn't catch a cab. Luckily, Serena was heading the same way and offered me a ride. When the car stopped in front of my house, I stepped out just in time to see Stella and Trent walking out of the courtyard, holding hands. I quickly averted my eyes and turned to thank Serena, who was in the driver's seat. Serena still had a bright smile on her lips. "Dylan, if you really want to thank me, come to my birthday party in 2 days." I gave a slight smile and nodded. As soon as Serena drove away, Trent spoke up with a sarcastic tone. "Was that Serena? Are you two dating? She's famous for being a wealthy playgirl. A guy like you probably won't have a good ending with her." My eyebrows twitched just as I was about to fire back. Stella's cold voice rang out. "Trent is right. The Serena family is not in our league. You should hang out with her less from now on. Besides, you're still young. You need to know your limits. Don't go fooling around with those kinds of people." Hearing her lecture made me feel extremely annoyed. I was simply given a ride home by a classmate, and out of her mouth, it turned into fooling around. Why did Stella have the right to judge me like that? I looked straight into Stella's eyes. The words coming out of my mouth carried pure distance. "I'm an adult. Who I make friends with is my personal freedom. I'm a bit tired. I'm going inside." Saying that, I walked straight into the yard. Stella stood frozen, staring intensely at my back, her expression incredibly heavy. It wasn't until Trent gently shook her that she snapped out of it. I didn't care about her reaction anymore. After telling my parents my score that night, the next step was submitting my university preference form. To avoid being disturbed, I specifically chose a day when Stella wasn't home to go to the school library and use the computer. A few days after submitting my form, I returned to the library to return some books. On my way home, I randomly bumped into Serena and her close friends. I was going to just say hi and leave, but Serena suddenly called out to me, "Dylan, want to go ice skating?" Before I could even answer, her friends chimed in, teasing, "Today is the birthday girl's special day. She wants to go ice skating." That's when I realized today was Serena's birthday. It would be rude to refuse now. So, the whole group headed to the biggest ice rink in town. Seeing me standing awkwardly, Serena grabbed a pair of skates and walked over. "Never skated before. Don't be scared. I can teach you." I nodded. We changed our shoes and entered the rink. But to my utter surprise, I bumped into Stella and Trent there too. I was briefly stunned. I never expected a serious person like Stella to come to a place like this. With Trent, I greeted them naturally. Serena, standing next to me, quickly introduced herself. "Hello, I'm Serena." Stella just gave Serena a freezing cold glare. She was about to say something when the rink's music suddenly blared. The people resting around us started gliding to the beat, and the atmosphere instantly became lively. Trent excitedly tried to pull Stella to the center of the rink. "Stella, it's starting. Hurry up." Stella had to swallow whatever she was going to say. She passively skated along with Trent. I watched them and gave a faint, mocking smile. As for Serena, she possessed a completely different charm. Since it was my first time, I was still a bit scared, so I let Serena hold my hand, guiding me step by step. "When you skate, bend your knees and right foot slightly. Move in a figure eight." Yes, exactly like that. Serena guided me, while patiently pointing out things to watch out for. Under her instruction, I gradually got the hang of it and told her to let go. I wanted to try skating forward on my own, but it turned out I had overestimated myself. I took 2 steps after letting go and instantly wobbled, about to crash onto the ice. Luckily, Serena was quick and pulled me back in time. In that split second, our bodies pressed tightly together, our breaths mingling. I felt a bit flustered, Just as I was trying to stand up straight, my eyes caught a scene, not far away. Trent had his hands wrapped around Stellar's waist. He leaned down slightly and planted a kiss on her lips. Time seemed to freeze. The crowd around them erupted into enthusiastic applause. Serena saw that I looked pale and asked, "Are you scared? We want to go rest over there for a bit." I nodded. We went to the rest area. Serena went to the counter to buy sodas. I stood there alone. At that moment, a flirtatious-looking, boldly dressed woman skated over to me. "Hey, handsome, looking sad all by yourself. Want to hang out with me?" She even tried to touch me. Thankfully, Serena returned just in time and stood right in front of me. "What do you think you're doing?" Seeing I had company, the woman huffed and skated away. Serena turned around, about to ask how I was, but her skates slipped. Losing her balance, she fell straight into me. I instinctively reached out and caught her, my arms wrapping tightly around her slender waist. Her bodies collided hard, even more intimately than before. I could even feel her softness. My heart raced wildly before I could even steady myself. Stella's furious voice boomed from behind. "What do you two think you're doing?" Serena and I quickly separated. Stella's eyes were like ice daggers, staring at us. "Dylan, hugging a girl in a public place like this. Do you know what you're doing? Do you have any self-respect left? Come home with me right now." Stella reached out, ready to grab my arm. "Celissa, you misunderstood. It was just..." Right at that moment, Trent, standing nearby, suddenly took a massive tumble onto the ice, groaning in pain. Stella's attention instantly shifted to Trent. She immediately squatted down, asking frantically what happened. Trent clutched his leg. "Someone bumped into me just now. I think my ankle is sprained." Hearing that, Stella frantically unlaced his skate. "Let me help you up. I'll take you to the hospital." Before leaving, he just dropped one sentence for me. "Go home by yourself." I stood frozen in place, watching Trent look back at me with a triumphant gleam in his eyes. I instantly understood. Trent was just acting, but Stella was completely oblivious. This just confirmed a hard truth. In Stella's heart, Trent was always far more important than me. One second, she was screaming at me for getting too close to another girl. The next second, she was ready to abandon me to tend to Trent, leaving me alone with that strange woman. It seemed she really didn't care about me anymore. Back in my room, I felt so exhausted, I didn't want to move. Just as I was about to collapse onto my bed, I accidentally bumped the corner of my desk. My pencil holder tipped over, and a paper rose fell out. I quietly stared at it, a wave of sadness washing over me. This was the rose Stella had folded for me. Back then, our relationship was still very close. I had seen a scene in a romantic movie where a girl gave a boy flowers, so I begged Stella to fold one for me. Stella was so annoyed by my pestering that she had no choice but to learn how to fold paper flowers from a guide, and finally gave me this rose. Back then, she looked full of indulgence, gently rubbing my head. "Folded it for you. You're so annoying." Holding that little rose, the hidden feelings in my heart surged strongly. I even naively thought Stella had feelings for me too. Later, when I lost this rose, I was depressed for a long time. I originally planned to ask her to fold another one, but so many things happened after that. Seeing this rose again today, I actually felt incredibly relieved. Some things, once the peak moment of desire has passed, lose all their meaning. I picked up the paper rose and threw it straight into the trash without a second thought. Right then, a man's voice called out from outside. "Is anyone home?" "Excuse me, is this Dylan's house? Is Dylan home?" I jogged outside and saw the postman hooking his Phoenix bicycle at the courtyard gate. He had an express envelope in his hand. "I'm Dylan. Is there a letter for me?" The postman nodded and handed me the envelope. I eagerly tore it open. When I saw the admission letter for Crown University, a heavy boulder in my heart finally dropped. Everything was finally settled. In absolute euphoria, I had a fantastic night's sleep. As soon as I opened my eyes, I smelled delicious food. While the family was getting ready to eat, Stella arrived home. Mom asked how Trent was doing. "He's fine," Stella replied calmly. "Everything's okay, just a minor sprain." I took him all the way home. Hearing her words, I just quietly kept my head down and ate, not saying a word. At that moment, Stella spoke up again. "The military sent a letter. They want me to end. I'll leave early and return to the unit. I'm leaving tomorrow." My parents were a bit surprised, but they nodded in agreement. Dad spoke first. "If it's a military order, you shouldn't delay. Pack your bags early after we eat." Mom added with a hint of regret. "It's just a shame that your marriage plans probably can't be finalized right away." For some reason, Stella subconsciously glanced at me, seeing me calmly eating, without a single trace of emotion. An indescribable sense of disappointment welled up in her heart. "August or the end of the year is fine too. It's not too late." My parents thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. Stella looked at me again and, as if possessed, said, "Your admission letter should be arriving soon." Trend also applied to Southwest U. When the time comes, you two can go together. Since you'll both be at Southwest U, you can support each other. That's right. It'd be great if you two could go together. My parents chimed in. I thought about the Crown University admission letter I had received yesterday afternoon. I hesitated, wondering if I should spill the beans right now. Mom turned to Stella and instructed, when Dylan gets to Southwest U, you make sure to take good care of your brother. I'm really worried about him. Hearing that, I swallowed the food in my mouth and ultimately decided to stay silent. I didn't want my mom to worry so much. She'd lose sleep all night. I'd deal with this once I was already there. At the dinner table, there were 4 people, but 3 entirely different mindsets. The next morning, the whole family woke up very early to see Stella off. Before she left, I initiated a polite farewell. Safe travels, safe. Stella nodded, looking at me with strict eyes. Serena is someone you can't truly understand. You need to be more careful from now on. It's almost time for college. You need to restrain yourself. Focus completely on your studies. Don't let yourself fall behind your peers. When you get to Southwest U, I listened silently, neither arguing nor promising anything. But Stella kept staring at me, as if waiting for confirmation. I had to give a perfunctory nod. I know. You should get going. I really didn't want to say another word. Stella opened the car door, about to get in, when suddenly Trent's voice called out from afar. Stella rushed over to support him. Your leg still hurts. Why did you come out here? You're returning to the base today. I had to come see you off. I'm fine. The two of them had a tearful, lingering goodbye. I, on the other hand, turned and walked straight into the yard, without looking back once. For some reason, Stella suddenly turned her head to look at my retreating back. An unsettling feeling surged in her heart, breaking her focus. It felt as if she would never see me again. But then she brushed the thought away, telling herself that soon, when I enrolled at Southwest U, we would meet again anyway. Tyler exchanged a few more words with Trent, then hopped into the military jeep and drove off. That day flew by, and the evening, I went to my room early and started packing my luggage. Tomorrow morning, I would also leave this place to head to Crown U. I had researched life in the capital thoroughly and knew the winters there would be freezing. So, I packed a few extra warm clothes. Everything I needed would carefully packed into my suitcase. While cleaning out my desk drawer, I accidentally found 2 family photos inside. One was taken when I was very young, before Stella even appeared. It was just the 3 of us. The other was taken with Stella 2 years ago. A family of 3 had become 4, but I only picked up the photo of the 3 of us and put it in my suitcase. After finishing packing, I washed up and went to bed early. I slept deeply that night, a dreamless sleep. The next morning, while it was still dark, I left a letter in the living room and quietly left with my suitcase. Everything was completely silent. My parents were still fast asleep. Before leaving, I looked back at my parents' room one last time. 1,000 words in my heart were condensed into one sentence. Take care, Mom and Dad. Then I decisively walked out of the courtyard. Half an hour later, I was seated on a train, heading to the capital. My mind flashed back to the memory of being chased out of the village in my past life, filled with humiliation, like a rat being yelled at and beaten by everyone. On this journey of life, I was determined not to repeat the same mistake. This time, I had to live for myself. Dawn was breaking. I believed that a bright future was definitely waiting ahead. The train whistle blew loudly, and the train began to move. My eyes shone with boundless hope and ambition. In the future, I would definitely live better every single day. Because I woke up so early, I felt a bit sleepy, half asleep. I felt my head resting on someone's shoulder. I instantly woke up. When I turned to look beside me, I met an incredibly familiar face. Serena. Why are you here? Serena tilted her head, smiling at me. You're awake. Of course, I'm going to the capital too, just like you. What a coincidence. I also got accepted into Crown U. I was completely amazed. Serena smiled and nodded, and just like that, the two of us headed toward Crown University together. Meanwhile, back home, my parents woke up as usual and went to the kitchen to prepare breakfast. The bowls and chopsticks were set on the table, but I still hadn't woken up. Mom wiped her hands and was about to go to my room to wake me, but found the door unlocked. She pushed it open, only to find that my daily personal items were gone. The bed was neatly made, but I was nowhere to be seen. While completely bewildered, she immediately spotted a letter left on the desk. She yelled out frantically, Mr. Smith, our son is gone. Hearing the commotion, Dad rushed over. What's wrong? What do you mean he's gone? Entering the room, he saw Mom handing him a letter. I just found this on his desk. You can read better than me. Open it quickly. Dad looked at the envelope addressed to Mom and Dad. He hastily tore it open and pulled out the paper inside. He read, Dad, when you and Mom read this, I'm probably already on the train to the capital. There's something I never told you both. Actually, I received an admission letter from Crown University, not Southwest University. Please forgive me for leaving without saying goodbye. But please don't worry too much. I will take good care of myself. Once I settle down at Crown U, I'll call or write home immediately. Signed, Dylan. After reading it, a look of utter shock flashed across Dad's eyes. Dylan, he went to Crown U. He's probably on the train right now. Mom was stunned. Crown U, not Southwest. Even Stella thought he was going to Southwest. No, I have to call and tell Stella right now. She was about to run out, but Dad stopped her. Dylan is already gone to Crown U. Telling Stella now won't solve anything. The boy said he'll contact us when he settles down. We can ask him clearly then. It's not too late. Mom thought about it and had no choice but to agree. At the exact same time, at the Southwest military base, Stellar, acting as the head drill instructor for the elite squad, was directly training the new recruits. Suddenly, she felt a tight pain in her chest. It felt as if she had just lost something incredibly important. Stella slightly furrowed her brows, my image involuntarily flashing in her mind. She shook her head to calm herself. Dylan is coming to Southwest U soon. We'll see each other before long. How could I lose him? She completely dismissed any thought of me going to Crown U. Feeling reassured, Stella adjusted her focus and continued training. After training, Stella went to town to buy some things. She thought I would be arriving soon and might lack necessities, but she wanted to buy some extra daily supplies from when she returned to the family quarters, carrying bags of stuff. She bumped into a fellow soldier's wife from across the hall. Seeing the pile of stuff, a woman teased, "Captain Stella is buying so many household items. Your husband must be coming to reunite with you soon, right?" Stella was momentarily stunned, but she absolutely didn't deny it. In fact, an indescribable joy swelled in her heart. Day by day, the enrollment day for Southwest University finally arrived. Stella intentionally requested leave from a commanding officer and drove to the university gates. She stood by the road, her eyes scanning constantly, intensely watching every student walking toward the gate, afraid she might miss my silhouette. Just as she thought she saw a familiar figure and was about to step forward to call out, a voice came from behind. "Stella, are you specifically standing here, waiting for me?" Stella turned around and saw Trent carrying his luggage, smiling brightly at her. She looked around him, saw he was alone, and asked, "Why is it just you? Didn't Dylan come with you?" Trent's eyes flickered, feigning surprise. "You didn't know Dylan went to Crown U with Serena." Stella was completely dumbfounded. Her heart plummeted into an abyss. Her mind went blank for a moment. How is that possible? Dylan's dream was always Southwest U. Why the sudden change? Stella's thoughts abruptly halted because she suddenly remembered what I had said earlier. I want to go to Crown U to study linguistics. I want to become a teacher later. It suits me better. Back then, she always thought it was just my excuse, that I was mad. She was hanging out with Trent, so I intentionally said those distant words. But it turned out those were my true thoughts, and I had actually done it. I hid it from her, hid it from everyone, and went to Crown U. Stella couldn't accept this outcome. She wanted to find me and demand an explanation. She turned and ran toward her car, but Trent grabbed her arm. "Stella, I just got here. It's a strange place for me. Can you stay and help me out a bit?" Stella decisively threw his hand off. "Handle it yourself. I have an urgent matter. I have to go." Saying that, she got in her car and sped off. Trent watched her car leave, his face showing clear resentment. He gritted his teeth inwardly. Though unwilling to accept it, on second thought, a smirk appeared on his face. He turned and leisurely walked into the Southwest U campus. It didn't matter. At least now, it was just him and Stella here. I was far away in the capital. From now on, no one could get between him and Stella ever again. After returning to the military family quarters, Stella quickly called the Phoenix village. While waiting for Mom or Dad to pick up, her mind was a mess. She didn't know what kind of answer she truly wanted to hear, but she knew that, whatever the answer was, she wouldn't be happy, because the thing she desired most seemed impossible now. In her panic, Mom's voice came through the line. "Stella, is everything okay in the army?" Stella nodded and replied, "I'm fine, Mom, don't worry. I called. I wanted to ask if Dylan really went to Crown U. Yeah, that kid sneaked out early in the morning, the day after you left. He just left us a letter." Mom's voice still carried a hint of annoyance. Stella's heart twisted in pain. She quickly asked, "Did he send a letter back after that? Or call home, Mom?" Because she was on base, she couldn't just leave whenever she wanted. To contact me, she could only rely on phone calls or letters. But letters required a specific address. "Nothing yet, honey. Your dad and I are anxiously waiting for news from him too. But there should be something in the next few days. Mom, if Dylan leaves a phone number or address, please let me know immediately, okay?" Stella's voice dropped, carrying a pleading tone. Mom thought it sounded a bit strange, but didn't overthink it. She nodded. Alright, I'll let you know as soon as there's news. After Stella hung up, she felt incredibly exhausted. To be honest, she couldn't understand why I was suddenly so determined to go to Crown U. Didn't I used to like her so much? Didn't I want to be with her forever? Serena's face suddenly flashed in her mind, making Stella's heart clench with jealousy. Could Dylan really have fallen for Serena? No. Stella muttered that word, startling herself. The feelings buried deep in her heart, which even she hadn't realized, were strongly awakening. This made Stella flustered, not knowing what to do. But she was also slowly beginning to understand her true feelings for me. Meanwhile, at Crown University, I had completed my enrollment procedures. I was assigned to dorm 502, building 5. When I lugged my suitcase into the dorm, no one else was there yet. It was an old-style 6-person dorm with iron bunk beds and a large communal table in the middle for studying and eating. I picked a bottom bunk near the door, then started cleaning, unpacking, and making my bed. It took me an hour to finish. Looking at the fresh dorm room, a satisfied smile appeared on my face. After neatly organizing my suitcase, I figured I should call home to tell them I was safe, so I went out to find the post office to make a call. The call connected quickly, and I heard my mom's scolding tone on the other end. Dylan, you're so brave, sneaking off to Crown U all by yourself. I had to pull the receiver away from my ear for a bit before daring to put it back. Mom, I told everyone before that I wanted to go to Crown U. Mom immediately fired back. Even so, you shouldn't have left without a word, sneaking off like that. I stayed silent for a moment before saying softly, I'm sorry, Mom. It's my fault. Hearing my apologetic tone, Mom's anger faded. She asked carefully about my current situation at Crown U. Finally, she remembered something and asked, can you leave a phone number or address for me so we can contact you if anything happened? I replied, there's no private phone in the dorm right now, Mom. There's only one at the lobby guard desk. I'll give you that number. My room address is building 5, room 502. But there are a lot of people calling that lobby phone normally, so it's not guaranteed I'll always get it. Also, here is Serena's number. She gave me her private number, so I'll read it for you to write down. After I read the numbers for Mom to jot down, we chatted for a few more minutes before I hung up. When I returned to the dorm, a few new friends had arrived. As soon as I walked in, a guy sitting on the bed next to mine initiated a greeting. Hey, you're my bunkmate, right? I'm Harry. I'm QU letter 1ED1, C stroke letter 1ED1 and G. I smiled and nodded, returning the greeting. Hi, I'm Dylan. The others also introduced themselves one by one. Soon, all the members of room 502 were gathered. Harry was a very energetic and fun guy. A local from the capital, he quickly became the center of our conversations, telling us lots of interesting things about the city. There are so many cool places. When we're free, I'll take you all around to see them. How about the National Day holiday? Even though the others weren't from the capital, their homes were fairly close, so they all shook their heads. For National Day, we'll probably try to visit our families. Finally, Harry looked at me. And you're probably going home too, right? I hesitated, thinking about how I had left on my own. Without saying a word to Stella, I was sure she would try to find me, to demand an explanation. If I went back to my hometown for National Day, it was highly likely I'd have to face her. And right now, I really didn't want to see her at all. I shook my head. I'm not going home for National Day. You can show me around the capital, then. Harry laughed loudly and slapped my shoulder. It's a deal, then. There's a grand military parade this year. We'll go watch it together. I nodded in agreement. After that, guys in our room began adjusting to our new life at Crown U. According to tradition, every freshman had to participate in the welcome party. This time, the rule was by dorm unit. Each room had to contribute a performance. Except for Harry, who was absent, the rest of the guys sat in the room to brainstorm. I thought for a moment, then asked the others if they had any special talents. I used to be in a performing arts troupe for a while, so I know a bit of dancing. Me too. Surprisingly, almost everyone in the room knew how to dance. I was the only one who had never learned it. That made me feel pretty awkward. Just then, Harry ran in panting. I know what our room should do. Everyone looked at him. We can do a social dance with a girl's door. That'll definitely stand out. No one had any objections, since they all knew basic dancing, and social dancing was very popular among students right now. Only Harry noticed my hesitation. He encouraged me. It's fine if you don't know how to dance. I can teach you later. Eventually, I agreed. I came to Crown U to improve myself and open up a bright future, so starting with learning to dance wasn't a bad idea. So the group started discussing the details. Suddenly, a question popped into my head. I asked Harry, which girl's dorm are you planning to partner with? Harry slapped his forehead. Damn it, I almost forgot. If you guys aren't busy right now, let's go find them. Everyone agreed. Just as we were about to step out of the dorm room, I heard someone yelling from the end of the hallway. "Dylan, room 502. Someone is looking for you at the lobby. There's a phone call for you." I was startled, wondering who would call me right now. Didn't I just call home 2 days ago? Could it be a family emergency? Anxiety instantly flared up in my heart. I quickly told Harry, "I have to go down to the lobby first. I'll catch up with you guys later." Harry nodded. "Sure, we'll probably be at the practice room or the cafeteria." "Got it," I replied, then sprinted down to the lobby. I grabbed the receiver resting on the desk and pressed it to my ear. "Hello, Mom, Dad, is something wrong at home?" In response, a familiar voice came through, one I never expected to hear. I froze. I truly didn't expect Stella to find a way to contact me so quickly. I stayed silent for a long time before managing to speak. "Hello, why are you calling me?" On the other end, hearing my voice, all the anxiety and restlessness in Stella's heart seemed to vanish. But thinking about what I had done, her annoyance flared up again. Her voice lost its usual composure. "Dylan, you really have absolutely nothing to explain to me." A long silence stretched over the phone line. The silence made Stella feel incredibly uneasy. Just as she was about to speak again, my calm voice rang out. "Everything that needed to be said, I've already told you. I'm settled at Crown U now. You don't need to worry or stress about me anymore. From now on, just focus on being with Trent." Every word I spoke made Stella's chest ache. "So you did all this because of him?" She couldn't even finish her sentence before I bluntly cut her off. "That doesn't matter anymore. Even though we are siblings, everyone has their own life to worry about. Right now, I found my true life goal. You don't need to be concerned anymore." Hearing my distant, indifferent words, Stella felt an intense wave of discomfort. She clearly felt the coldness I was giving her through the phone, but at the same time, she suddenly realized the deep, hidden care she had for me. She just didn't know how to express it. Seeing the silence on her end, I didn't want to drag out the past any longer. I spoke first. "I'm busy here. I have to go. Goodbye." Without waiting for her to react, I decisively hung up the phone. I stood there for a moment to calm my chaotic emotions, then turned and left the lobby, heading in the direction Harry had mentioned. I found them in the gym. As I walked up, they had already met up with some girls and started their first practice session. Harry saw me and enthusiastically waved me over. I quickly walked over, greeting and introducing myself to the girls there. Then Harry told me, "I know you're not great at this, so I specifically saved the best dance partner for you." He looked around, then pointed to a girl standing a short distance away. "She's coming over right now." "That's her." I looked where he was pointing and saw a girl in a white dress, hair tied in a high ponytail, with a slender figure walking towards us. I instantly recognized her. It was Serena. She smiled and greeted me. "So it's you." Serena seemed just as surprised as I was. A random pairing, and we still bump into each other. We really do have some fate to meet like this. Standing next to us, Harry kept looking back and forth between us, curiously asking, "You two know each other?" I smiled and explained, "We're from the same city." Harry nodded. "That's great. Since you two already know each other, it won't be awkward practicing." He then turned to Serena. "I'll leave Dylan in your hands." Then Serena nodded. "Don't worry, leave it to me." As Harry moved away to practice on his own, I felt a bit shy. I started, "Serena, to be honest, I don't know how to dance at all." Serena reassured me, "It's fine. Don't pressure yourself too much. Just let me guide you." I nodded in agreement. Serena took my hand and started teaching me the basic step. "Put your hand out and place it on mine like this. Then move to my rhythm." Holding my hand, Serena led me forward and backwards smoothly. Then she told me to raise my arm high while she used the momentum to spin gracefully a few times. Right at that moment, my feet got tangled up, causing me to lose control of my body. I fell backward. I let out a yelp of shock, thinking I was going to smash into the floor, and squeezed my eyes shut in fear. But after waiting a moment, the pain never came. Right then, Serena's voice echoed, right next to my ear. "Are you going to let me hold you like this forever?" I snapped my eyes open and realized Serena was holding me tightly with both hands, preventing me from hitting the floor. Looking into her smiling eyes, my ears instantly turned bright red from embarrassment. I quickly stood up and gently pushed her back a bit. "Thank you." Serena pulled her hands back, acting casually. "It's nothing. Let's continue." I nodded. This time, I was much more careful. Luckily, I didn't trip again. I breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing my expression, Serena couldn't help but laugh and tease me. "You really don't need to be this tense. Dancing is supposed to be fun. Just relax and enjoy it." I nodded. "I know. I'll try." Just then, Harry walked over to check on our progress. Seeing me still a bit awkward and not knowing how to reply, Serena answered for me, "Don't worry, we won't slow down the group's progress." "Yeah, I was worried about that. but don't stress yourself out too much, Dylan, Harry said, looking at me encouragingly. I just gave a wry smile and said I understood. That's enough practice for today. Let's go eat, Harry suggested, then called the whole group to head to the cafeteria. While we were eating, Harry seemed to suddenly remember something and asked me out of the blue, Dylan, was that your family calling you earlier? My chopsticks paused for a beat. Yeah, my sister called. You have a sister. How old is she? Harry, being the gossip he was, kept bombarding me with questions. I felt a bit exhausted. I really didn't want to constantly talk about Stella. So Serena, sitting across from me, noticed my discomfort and quickly intervened to change the subject. Guys, the welcome party is only a few days away. Everyone needs to practice harder. Dylan, you can come find me anytime to practice more. I'm in building 1, room 405. Seeing Serena step imperfectly, Harry stopped drilling me about Stella. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief and immediately agreed. Then, after dinner, if you're not busy, guide me a bit more. Serena looked at me and nodded slightly. Sure. The others scattered to do their own things. I followed Serena back to the gym to learn the dance. Time flew by, and soon it was the night of the freshman welcome party. Right before going on stage, I suddenly felt incredibly nervous. Serena stood right next to me and whispered, "Don't be scared. If you're really nervous, just don't look at the audience. Just pretend we're in the practice room like always." I took a deep breath to calm myself. When the performance started, I focused entirely on Serena's rhythm. Our coordination turned out to be incredibly smooth and in sync. Just as I was starting to relax, my eyes accidentally swept over the audience. Seeing the massive crowd, a wave of panic suddenly hit me. My steps lost their rhythm, and I accidentally stepped lightly on Serena's foot. Serena seemingly felt my panic immediately. She quickly pulled me closer, placing my hand on her slender waist, while her own arm gently wrapped around my neck. She skillfully adjusted to my movements and whispered, "Keep going, we're almost done." We were so close to each other that I could clearly feel her warm breath. It made my heart beat wilder than ever. My face turned as red as a ripe apple. It wasn't until the thunderous applause rang out that we stepped off the stage together. By then, the redness on my face still hadn't faded. Harry looked at me with deep suspicion and asked, "Dylan, why is your face so red?" "Don't tell me it's because Serena just got a bit close to you." I felt incredibly embarrassed, just keeping my head down. Without saying a word, next to me, Serena only smiled meaningfully. The welcome party was a massive, brilliant success. Thanks to these dance practices, my dorm and Serena's dorm built a very close friendship. After that, everyone got sucked into the whirlpool of studying. Every day, besides attending classes, I spent most of my time buried in the library, and I frequently bumped into Serena there. The two of us gradually became closer than before. Before long, rumors started spreading around the school that we were dating. Even Harry ran up to me, curiously asking, "Hey, Dylan, are you and the campus belle actually dating?" Hearing that question, I was stunned. I quickly shook my head, in denial. There's no such thing. We just run into each other at the library. Stop spreading rumors. But if even Harry thought so, then other people definitely misunderstood even more. The next day, when I saw Serena at the library, I intentionally kept my distance, no longer sitting close to chat like before. During breaks, I also didn't listen to her passionately talk about her major. Serena was studying aerospace engineering. Serena instantly noticed my unusual behavior and guessed the reason was the spreading rumors. She looked at me and spoke softly. "You really don't need to care about what other people think. Even if we were actually dating, it's none of their business." I knew that was logical, but the ghost of my past life still haunted me deeply. It was because of malicious rumors that my previous life was destroyed. I really didn't want to be dragged into that whirlpool again. I said seriously to Serena, "From now on, maybe it's better if I study in my dorm." Serena was slightly stunned. She furrowed her brows, about to say something, but stopped. She realized that I seemed very troubled. After that, we intentionally minimized our contact. After a while, the gossiping finally died down. Only then did I truly breathe a sigh of relief and buried myself back into my studies. Time flew by, and the National Day holiday was fast approaching. Most of my roommates had gone back to their hometowns to visit family. Only Harry and I were left. Harry brought up the grand military parade again. "Let's go watch it together." The National Day military parade wasn't held the last one was 5 years ago. I had heard a lot about it, but had never witnessed it with my own eyes. Since I was already in the capital, I had to see it, no matter what. We immediately made a plan. Just as we walked out the school gate, coincidentally, we ran into Serena. She looked a bit surprised to see me. "You didn't go home either. Where are you going?" "Not yet," I replied. Harry quickly chimed in. "We're heading to Tiananmen Square to watch the military parade." "What a coincidence, me too. Let's go together." She looked at me with hopeful eyes, as if afraid I would reject her again. I gave a slight nod. Then, Harry and I got into Serena's white Centana. When we arrived at Tiananmen, the place was already packed with people. Harry and I looked at each other in dismay, silently wondering how we were going to squeeze in. Follow me. If we stand out here, we won't see anything. Serena spoke up, then led us through the crowd to a different area. By the time we stood in the very front row, with a perfect view of the entire ceremony, I was a bit surprised and in disbelief. Looking at Serena, I suddenly remembered what I had heard at school. Her grandfather was apparently a high-ranking military officer in the capital. No wonder she could find such a prime spot. Harry's jaw dropped in shock. Serena, who exactly are you? How did you get such an amazing spot? Serena just smiled modestly. It's nothing. Look, the parade is about to start. Beside me, Harry looked at Serena with completely different eyes, a mix of admiration and curiosity. I was a bit concerned, but didn't have time to overthink it. My entire attention was drawn to the parade. Following a booming command, echoing across Tiananmen Square, rhythmic, perfectly synchronized, and incredibly majestic footsteps rang out. The Air Force in pristine white uniforms, the Navy in deep blue, and the Army in vibrant green uniforms, row after row glided past our eyes, witnessing their proud expressions and towering morale. I was swept up in the atmosphere, feeling an indescribable wave of emotion. As another army squad in green marched imposingly towards us, I focused my gaze. Suddenly, my eyes locked onto the leading group, onto a tall figure. I was stunned. My eyes widened, staring at that familiar silhouette passing right before my eyes. It was her, Stella. She had come to the capital and participated in the military parade. In an instant, my mind became a mess. My eyes blurred slightly. Dylan, are you listening to me? Feeling a slight push, I snapped out of it and looked at Harry. What were you thinking about? I'm a bit thirsty, he said. I'm gonna go buy some water. Okay, I nodded. When I looked up, I caught Serena's probing gaze. Serena had also seen Stella. She immediately realized something was off with my expression. Since back in Phoenix Village, she had felt that this sibling relationship was somewhat unusual. Serena frowned slightly, but didn't casually ask me. After all, it was my private matter. But internally, she felt very uneasy. After the three of us finished watching the parade, we headed back to school. After Harry and I got out of the car and said goodbye, I watched her drive away. Just as I was about to head back to the door, I suddenly heard Harry call out beside me, Dylan, I've decided to pursue Serena, and the others too. Hearing that, I almost tripped over my own feet. I looked at Harry in shock, taking a long time to utter a word. What did you just say? Harry excitedly grabbed my arm. Velen, I realized I think I like Serena. I'm planning to write a love letter to her. You gotta help me. What? You're the top student in our literature department. Help me write a love poem to give to Serena, please. Come on. Harry dragged me quickly back to the door. Before I could even protest, I was forced into a chair at my desk. Pen was shoved into my hand, and a blank piece of paper was already laid out. I finally snapped back to reality. I immediately put the pen down and said, I can't do this. Don't ask me. Seeing that I genuinely didn't want to, Harry took a step back. Fine, I'll write it myself, but when I'm done, review it for me. Okay. I reluctantly nodded. Right then, there was a knock on the dorm door. I quickly got up to open it. It looked like a guy from the dorm next door. You're Dylan, right? Someone is looking for you at the school gate. You should go see. I was stunned. I didn't know anyone in the capital who would come looking for me. Suddenly, a familiar silhouette in a military uniform flashed in my mind. Was it her? Did she find me here this fast? I took a deep breath. I had to face this sooner or later. Making things clear with her sooner was for the best. Once it was said, we would go our separate ways in peace. After telling Harry, I walked out to the school gate. Della saw me from a distance. She saw me wearing a white shirt, looking incredibly energetic. My whole body radiated the breath of youth. It seemed I was no longer the boy from Phoenix Village, the boy who always followed behind her calling sis. That boy had changed. Della's eyes flickered. She felt a suffocating tightness in her chest. I looked at the slightly haggard woman before me and smiled faintly. Hi, Stella. She opened her mouth. I have something I want to tell you. Let's find a place to sit. I nodded and led her into the campus, to a small park not far away. We sat on a cool stone bench. We were both silent for a while. Stella thought to herself, ever since the last time I hung up on her, her heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. That pain constantly surrounded her mind, but she didn't know what to do. She wanted to come to the capital to find me, but didn't know what to say. Later, Southwest University conducted military training for freshmen. She was assigned as the chief commander. During that time, Trent constantly hovered around her. Back in Phoenix Village, she didn't see anything wrong with it. After all, she had voluntarily agreed to the blind date. But when Trent acted entitled, treating himself as her fiancé for the first time, she felt incredibly uncomfortable. That was also the first time the thought of not wanting to marry Trent popped into her head. She intentionally distanced herself from Trent. When he noticed, he confronted her with a reproachful look. "Stella, I feel like you're being distant. Aren't we engaged?" Stella was silent for a long time before saying, "Trent, regarding our marriage, I think we need to reconsider." "Why?" Trent shouted, demanding answers. "I know. I'm sorry, but I've made my decision." Stella didn't want to argue further because she was gradually realizing who truly occupied her heart. Trent looked at her and suddenly asked, "Is it because of Dylan?" Stella stayed silent. "He's your brother. You guys are impossible. Besides, he already went to the capital. Do you think he'll ever come back?" Hearing his tone, Stella felt like he was hiding something. "Are you hiding something from me? Do you know why he suddenly went to crown you?" "Of course I know. You two can't be together anyway. I'm just helping you out." Stella finally understood my sudden distance from her. It was definitely Trent's doing. Her eyes looking at Trent were bone-chillingly cold. "What did you do?" "I just relayed what you said to me to him. Just telling him the truth was enough to make him really give up. It's because you wanted to date me, so he thought you and I were on the same side." Stella took a deep breath. "So that was it. That was why. The day after I confessed, I apologized. I told her not to worry. And then I decisively chose to study at Crown U. I had misunderstood her. I had also given up on this love. Now that she understood her own heart, maybe it wasn't too late. Everything from before Dylan, it was my fault. Now I've figured out my true feelings. I like you too." But she couldn't finish her sentence. I had suddenly stood up. My eyes were filled with disbelief and a hint of undisguised mockery. The rest of the words Stella was about to say instantly got stuck in her throat. She couldn't utter another sound. It took a long time for Stella to find her voice again. "Everything I'm saying is from the bottom of my heart. I've thought it through. As long as we can be together." I took a deep breath to control my emotions. It took a moment to suppress my chaotic feelings. I bluntly interrupted her. "I've already let it go. From now on, you are only my sister. And have you forgotten? You and Trent are getting married at the end of the year." Stella quickly explained. I made things clear to him. "I will also explain everything to our parents. You don't need to carry any burdens." Looking at Stella, making promises in front of me for the first time, I doubted my own judge of character. Stella acted without ever thinking about the consequences. It seemed she only ever thought about herself, thinking I didn't like it. She rejected me mercilessly before, not even saving me any face. She even casually dated Trent right in front of me. Now that I had given up on her, she suddenly felt she liked me. Then she dumped Trent without hesitation. It was exactly like how, because of Trent, she had abandoned me before. Suddenly, my heart felt incredibly hardened. I looked at Stella, enunciating every word clearly. "Let me repeat this one last time. Right now, I have absolutely no feelings for you other than sisterly affection. As for you and Trent, I don't care. I have things to do. I'm leaving." Saying that, I didn't want to argue with Stella anymore. I turned and walked away. I had barely taken a step when Stella grabbed me. "I know you're just saying that because you're mad. Before, it was me who wronged you. From now on, I will definitely make it up to you double." I couldn't help but roll my eyes. I seriously doubted if Stella understood human language. I didn't want to say another word. I brushed her hand off and kept walking forward, but in Stella's eyes, she thought I was still mad. She assumed I was just throwing a tantrum. She smiled indulgently and followed closely behind me. I applied to study at the capital military region for half a year. "Whenever I'm free, I'll come visit you. From now on, we can see each other often." I felt incredibly annoyed. I really couldn't understand what Stella was thinking. When I liked her, she tried 1,000 ways to reject me. When I finally let go and didn't want to look back, she rushed at me. This sudden change made me feel exhausted, not knowing how to deal with it. Arriving at the Crown U gate, I told Stella, "You should go back. I have to go inside." Without waiting for her to react, I turned to walk into the school. But after just a few steps, a strong force suddenly grabbed me. I was starting to lose patience. Looking back, I saw Trent's face right behind me. I was slightly surprised. Before I could even speak, Trent landed a heavy punch right on my face. Bam! "Dylan, you piece of trash. Let the professors a crown. You see how despicable you are, constantly stalking someone else's fiancé." Trent intentionally screamed at the top of his lungs. The students and professors around heard him loud and clear. Everyone stopped and turned their eyes toward us. My eyes instantly went bloodshot. The suffocating feeling of being falsely accused in my past life hit me again. I tried to calm down and defend myself. "Trent, stop spitting blood. I can sue you to the school administration for this. Don't push it until you lose your own student status." Trent suddenly put on an arrogant face and started wailing pathetically. It's obvious you seduced my fiancé, and now you're playing the victim and threatening me to keep quiet. Stella rushed over to stop him. If looks could kill, Trent would have died 1,000 times by her hands. At this moment, she deeply regretted her past blindness. Why did she ever think he was a good person? Stella stood in front of me to protect me. She whispered, "Why don't you leave first? Let me handle things here." I shook my head. If I left now, this bad reputation would follow me forever. I would never wash it clean. Seeing Stella protect me, Trent became even more insanely jealous. His words became completely unhinged. "I am your fiancé, and you're defending him." The people around started whispering and pointing at me and Stella. My face was pale with anger. I absolutely couldn't let Trent keep talking. He had fought so hard for this new life. I absolutely wouldn't let him destroy it again. But before I could speak, a familiar voice suddenly rang out next to my ear. "Look closely. That's his fiancé's younger brother, not your imaginary rival." I looked to the side. It was Serena approaching. She stood next to me and said to Stella, "Stellar, you're here too." Then she looked at the wound on my face. When she touched that red mark, a flash of anger instantly ignited in her eyes. "Who beat Dylan up like this? Don't you know how to fight back?" She reached out her hand, heartbroken, to touch my face. Stella frowned seeing this, and instinctively reached out to stop her. Serena took that chance to lean close to Stella's ear and whisper, "Get him out of here, right now. You want to see Dylan expelled from Crown U." Stella was stunned. After looking me over, she immediately dragged the still-dazed Trent into the Jeep and drove away. After they left, Serena loudly reassured the crowd, "Please disperse. That man is the fiancé of Dylan's sister. He has some mental issues. Because Dylan has a very good relationship with his sister, that guy constantly treats him as an imaginary rival." After saying that, she pulled me deep into the campus. My mind was blank. It wasn't until I felt a slight sting on my face that I snapped out of it and thought about what just happened. I looked at the girl beside me and said, "Thank you for helping me. Do you have medicine in your door? The wound on your face needs to be treated quickly." Serena still had her brows furrowed. I nodded. Serena didn't say anything else. The two of us walked toward Dorm 5. I noticed Serena seemed angry. I asked timidly, "Are you mad?" Serena looked at me with immense frustration. "Are you a punching bag for people to hit? Someone hits you, and you don't fight back. And as for that gentle sister of yours, I can only say your judge of character is terrible. Standing right next to you, and she couldn't even protect you. Terrible. Standing right next to you, and she couldn't even protect you." The more Serena spoke, the angrier she got. Her eyes looked like they could spit fire. I was a bit surprised. "How do you know about my situation with her?" I believed Serena understood what I meant. Serena knowing about this would completely out of my expectations. She replied in annoyance, "Back in Phoenixville, I already saw how you treated her differently. That's in the past. From now on, she's only my sister." I quickly reaffirmed my stance. Serena froze. She stared at me intensely, making me feel a bit scared inside. Just as I was about to say something, Serena suddenly stepped closer. Her voice carried a hint of expectation. "So that's really over. Then, do you want to try getting to know me?" I stood frozen, looking at her. We stared deeply into each other's eyes. Neither of us looked away, until a trembling voice rang out next to us. "What are you two doing?" Harry, who was in the room, writing his love letter, had suddenly heard a dorm mate say I was in trouble at the gate. He immediately threw his pen and ran out. But as soon as he reached the lobby, he saw me and Serena standing so close, gazing at each other romantically, like a couple in love. His heart sank to the bottom of an abyss. His call interrupted the atmosphere between us. I instantly snapped out of it, quickly backing away from Serena and looking at Harry. Remembering what he had said earlier, I hurriedly explained, "Things aren't what you think." But before I could finish, Serena cut me off. "Why do you have to explain to him?" Harry's face was deathly pale. He walked up and stared intently at Serena. "Because he knows I like you, and I want to date you." I felt Serena's glare at that moment was as sharp as needles piercing me, making me afraid to look up at her. While I was awkwardly trying to find an excuse to slip away, male student suddenly walked up. "Dylan, the professor wants to see you in the office for a moment." I froze, then immediately understood. It was definitely because of the commotion at the gate just now. Even though Serena had tactfully killed the rumor, as a top university, the administration still needed to verify the truth. I nodded. "I'll go right now." "I'll go with you." Serena immediately spoke up. Harry, watching from the side, had heavy eyes, but he also opened his mouth. "I'll go too." So, the group of us headed to the administration office. I went into the office alone, while Serena and Harry waited outside. Harry looked at the girl beside him and asked directly, "Do you like Dylan?" Serena turned her head to look at him, but didn't say a word. "I'll take that as a yes, but but I can see that Dylan doesn't seem to feel that way about you." Harry added another blow. Serena frowned and replied, "I know, but not having feelings now doesn't mean he won't in the future. I believe in myself." Harry fell silent after hearing that. His expression became incredibly complicated. I opened the door and walked out. Noticing the atmosphere outside was a bit tense, I asked, "What's wrong?" Both of them answered in unison, "Nothing." Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. "Is everything okay?" Serena asked. I nodded with a relaxed smile. "Yeah, the professor just asked about the situation. I've explained everything clearly." I thought for a moment and added, "And I'm going to write a complaint letter to Southwest University. I won't let Trent get away with his slander." "Good." Serena expressed her support. Then I looked at Harry, who was deep in thought beside me. "What's wrong with you? We can go now." "Let's go." Harry snapped back to reality. Returning to the dorm, I looked at Harry's dazed expression. I thought he was still thinking about what happened between me and Serena earlier. I quickly explained, "Harry, what happened between me and Serena earlier wasn't like that." But before I finished, Harry cut me off. "Dylan, sorry for lying to you. I was a bit confused. And then, the reason I said I wanted to pursue Serena wasn't because I liked her. It was because of her family background." Harry looked at me, his mood flustered and uneasy. I pulled a chair to sit next to him, my voice gentle. "Just tell me slowly." From Harry's mouth, I finally learned the truth. His father was a general in the capital military region. From a young age, he was heavily oppressed by his father. His family always dictated that he could only marry daughters of high-ranking officials. Even getting into Crown, you took a massive fight just to earn a tiny bit of freedom. So when he found out Serena had a similar family background, he suddenly claimed he wanted to pursue her. I never expected that Harry, who looked so cheerful and carefree, had so many heavy thoughts. "Harry, what I want to tell you is that it's a new era now. Everyone has the right to choose their own marriage. If you don't want to, you can negotiate with your family. Your life is your own. Just be the master of it. Don't let anyone dictate it." This was also the bloody lesson I learned from my past life. I only realized this truth recently. Harry looked at me and suddenly said, "No wonder Serena likes you." That's exactly what she told me. I was stunned. I was about to ask how, but the words got stuck in my throat. Harry suddenly reached out and hugged me, cutting me off. His voice choked up a bit. "Dylan, thank you. I know what to do now." I also reached out and patted his back. A moment later, he regained his composure and pushed me away. Although his eyes were a bit red, the smile had returned to his face. I had just breathed a sigh of relief when I heard him ask, "Dylan, do you really not like Serena?" "I haven't thought about that. Right now, I just want to focus entirely on my studies." I had loved Stella for so many years, but it ended so tragically. Now, whether I liked someone or not wasn't important to me anymore. I just wanted to enrich my knowledge and experience and build a bright future for myself. During the final days of the National Day holiday, Harry took me to visit many places in the capital. Most of the time, Serena tagged along too. As for Stella and Trent, they didn't appear again during this time. I didn't know how Stella dealt with Trent, but it was none of my business anymore. A few days after the holiday, I returned to my life of burying myself in the library every day. This time, I still had Serena's company, but I no longer avoided her like before, because if I denied the incident at the school gate, it would surely be brought up and gossiped about again. But I felt I should make things clear with Serena, so I found a suitable time and told her, "Serena, our situation is making people misunderstand. If you find it annoying." I frowned. I still didn't know how to handle it. Everything seemed stuck. I couldn't think of a perfect solution yet. Serena looked at my conflicted state and sighed. That day, I spoke out on my own. "I was just afraid you'd find it annoying. But could you give me a chance to stand by your side?" I was genuinely happy to see the affection in her eyes. That sincerity. Right now, I probably can't return it. But anyway, thank you. I understand. I'll keep trying. I firmly believe you'll change your mind eventually, Serena affirmed confidently. I didn't know what else to say, so I just stayed silent. With things out in the open, being together felt much more comfortable. Time flew by during our intense studies. Half a month later, I was walking to the library, holding a book, when a dorm mate ran up to me. "Dylan, I just answered a call at the lobby. A woman in a military uniform is looking for you." I nodded and thanked him. I immediately headed for the school gate. I thought it was Stella, probably coming to tell me about Trent's ultimate fate. But when I reached the gate, it wasn't Stella. It was a strange, female soldier. I paused, then walked up to her. "I'm Dylan. You're looking for me." The stranger nodded. "I was ordered by Captain Stella to bring you to see her." I asked suspiciously, "Why didn't she come herself?" "She's currently in the hospital." I was surprised. What happened to her? Why is she in the hospital? Let Stella tell you the details herself. Do you have time right now? I thought about it. I didn't have classes this afternoon. I'll go with you to the hospital. I got into the jeep parked by the road and went to Din hospital. After a 40-minute drive, I pushed open the door to the patient room. I saw Stella lying on the bed, resting with her eyes closed. Hearing the noise, she opened her eyes. Seeing it was May, a flash of joy appeared in her eyes. She hurriedly tried to sit up. That movement aggravated the wound on her back. The pain made her furrow her brows tightly. I quickly stepped forward to support her arm. Looking closely at the wound on her back, it looked like she had been whipped. Stella grabbed my hand tightly and wouldn't let go. From now on, no one will stop us from being together anymore. Can you give me another chance? I froze. Just as I was about to speak, Stella continued. I canceled the engagement with Trent. I also made everything clear to my parents. They won't oppose us anymore. My eyes widened, staring at Stella. It took me a long time to utter, "Yo," told our parents. Stella gripped my hand tighter. Please, hold my hand. I know you still resent me for rejecting you before. That's why I took all the consequences myself. I just hope you can forgive me. Dylan, I really do like you. So, this wound was really from a beating? I asked softly, suddenly feeling a bit dizzy. At first, she ruthlessly rejected me, telling me she could only ever be my sister in this lifetime. Yet now, she had taken the matter to our parents. But I had truly let it go. I no longer needed her love. So, I felt absolutely no emotion or gratitude for what she had done. I only felt confused, not knowing how to face this. Moreover, an infinite sadness surged from deep within my heart. In my past life, I was exactly like Stella was right now. I fought fiercely in front of my parents, but the outcome waiting for me, with being kicked out of the house, ruining my entire life. Yet when it was Stella's turn, they easily let it go, even giving their blessing, and neither of them ever bothered to ask for my opinion. At this moment, I only felt a bone-chilling coldness. Stella looked at my silent. The joy in her heart would gradually replaced by anxiety. She stared at me, unblinkingly. Are you not happy? She was about to say more, but I cut her off. I hid all my emotions deep in my eyes. With an indifferent voice, I asked, what did you tell them? With a point where they didn't even bother to give me a single phone call. Stella recounted the whole story to me. It turned out, that day Stella dragged Trent away from the Crown U gate and took him back to Southwest University. During that time, my complaint letter had also reached their administration. After a thorough investigation, Trent was expelled from Southwest University and sent back to labor in Phoenix Village. His parents even went to the Smith family house to cause a scene. Stella returned just in time and exposed all the truth. Trent completely broke down. In front of everyone, he pointed at Stella and said, Stella, you dare say you don't have a shred of selfishness. Your actions are just a cover-up. You and Dylan. Shut up. How Trent's situation ended up like this. Who is to blame? You know best. Stella angrily interrupted him and added, whatever happens between me and Dylan is the Smith family's business. It has nothing to do with you. Furthermore, if you dare speak, I'm not afraid to admit it. I could even talk about what happened between you and your senior female classmate. Seeing Stella's warning glare, Trent felt guilty. He never expected her to know about that. At Southwest U, there really was a senior who liked him because he hadn't received a response from Stella. For a long time, he went to that senior for comfort. Even the money for his train ticket to the capital came from her. Ultimately, Trent didn't dare say anything more outrageous. Not long after, he was sent to labor camp in Phoenix Village. After a few days of dealing with matters at her grandmother's house and Trent's situation, Stella went home and laid her cards on the table with our parents. At that moment, she knelt directly on the floor. My dad was startled. Stella, what are you doing? I have something to tell you. It might be hard for you to accept, but it's my true feelings. My parents looked suspicious. What is it? Speak. I'm sorry. I've betrayed your trust. My feelings for Dylan are not just familiar. I like him. That sentence was like a bomb. It exploded in the night. The aftermath was predictable. Stella was beaten with a whip and even forced to kneel for a whole day and night. But in the end, my parents didn't say anything more, only telling her to stand up. Stella understood that, although they didn't agree, they would no longer fiercely oppose it. After hearing Stella's story, I didn't know how to feel. Even though Stella had sacrificed a lot, I didn't want to look back anymore. I looked straight at her. Let me tell you a story. A flash of confusion appeared in Stella's eyes, but mostly, it was anxiety. Initially, she thought that as long as she got rid of Trent and overcame our parents' opposition, I would have no more psychological barriers and would happily return to her side. Yet, from start to finish, there wasn't a single smile on my face. This made Stella's heart clench. The fear in her heart grew with every panicked breath. I ignored Stella's feelings and just continued my monologue. I told her everything I had experienced in my past life, from my hopeful confession to how I died lonely in a foreign land. After finishing, I closed my eyes, suppressing my intense emotions. Deep down, I looked at Stella, my eyes light and calm. Stella, I'm sorry. I have truly let you go. From now on, we are just siblings. Stella's heart instantly felt like it was smashed with a sledgehammer, leaving a massive hole. Even her lips trembled. Dylan, before, I was foolish. I didn't realize my own feelings. I'll change. Can we start over, please? My mood was a mix of sadness and mockery. If in my past life you could have said these words to me, would my life have ended in such poverty and misery? In my past life, you didn't love me. Now you say you want to be with me. Is that a common human disease? Things you can't have always make you crave them like crazy. But if that's truly the case, I feel it's really not worth it for myself. In my past life, I won't ever look back. I don't care about it anymore. Since I've decided to move forward, there's no need to be tied down by the past. After clearing my thoughts, I told Stella, you just rest. I'll come visit you later. Saying that, I turned to leave, but Stella grabbed my hand. Dylan, just because of a story, you have the heart to abandon me. I stopped. My voice carried a hint of sorrow. But if I told you, it wasn't a story, but my own bloody experience. After that, I brushed her hand off and walked out of the hospital room without looking back. Stella stared at my retreating back, the pain in her heart, indescribable. Clearly, everything was settled, but why did she feel like she was about to lose me? She didn't want to give up. She loved me so much. How could she just let go so easily? Put away that story. Stella, although her heart was filled with anxiety, she didn't believe in superstitions or ghosts. The top priority now was to heal her wounds. My heart was very soft. As long as she was completely devoted to me, she could definitely make me change my mind. After leaving the hospital, I didn't go back to school immediately. I found a public payphone to call home. This time, my dad picked up. Both ends of the line was silent for a long time. I spoke first. Dad, are you and Mom doing well? A moment later, I heard my dad's hoarse voice. Your mom is a bit tired, but it's nothing serious. Don't worry too much. My heart instantly ached. I knew it. I understood. How could my parents easily accept something like this? I just didn't understand why they compromised so quickly this time. Regardless, I needed to make my thoughts clear to them. Dad, I'm sorry about the things involving me, and... Before I could finish, my dad interrupted. Your mom and I won't interfere anymore. From now on, even if you guys don't come home, it's fine. We can take care of ourselves. Hearing my dad's exhausted voice, I couldn't help but ask, Dad, why didn't you and Mom oppose it this time? My dad was silent for a long time before answering. That day was the first time I saw Stella so determined. That look reminded me of her late father. I felt a bit ashamed. So that was it. Dad, listen to me. I've told you before. From now on, I will only treat her as my older sister. That's the truth. That's also one of the biggest reasons I was determined to get into Crown You. When I finished, the line went dead silent, a suffocating silence. Tell me clearly, what exactly are you and Stella thinking? My dad's voice began to sharpen. I made it very clear to her. We will only ever be family. I've made my decision, and it won't change. Dad, you and Mom just need to take good care of yourselves. This is a private matter between us. We can handle it ourselves. I can't come home for National Day, but I promise we will all come home for the Lunar New Year. Finally, my dad didn't say anything more. He just replied and hung up. After the call, I thought about Stella again. I hoped she wouldn't do anything too extreme. Regardless, I didn't want my parents worrying about me anymore. When I returned to school, it was starting to get dark. As I walked past the dorm lobby, I saw Serena pacing back and forth, looking extremely anxious. I walked toward her. Before I could speak, she interrupted me. Her voice was a mix of anger and worry. Where have you been? Do you know, I've been worried about you all afternoon. I'm sorry. I had to go to the hospital for an emergency. I obediently apologized and explained. You went to the hospital. What's wrong? Are you sick? Serena hastily scanned me from head to toe. I shook my head. No, it's my sister. Serena paused for a moment. She hasn't gone back yet. She's still in the capital. She applied to study at the military region here. She'll probably be here for about half a year. Hearing this, Serena's face turned even uglier. She fell silent, not saying another word. I could clearly feel her mood at this moment, but I didn't know how to comfort her. After thinking for a moment, I said, from now on, if I go anywhere, I'll let you know beforehand. Serena's eyes instantly lit up. Deal. Okay, then I'll go upstairs first. Tomorrow afternoon, I don't have classes. I'll go to the library. I added another sentence. I only have one class tomorrow afternoon too. I'll come find you after. Serena immediately nodded profusely. She stood watching me go upstairs, a mood clearly much happier. Even though I hadn't officially promised her anything yet, she could feel that things between me and Stella were no longer the same. She was definitely going to win me over. Back in the dorm, everyone else was there, but the bed next to mine was still empty. I asked my roommates if Harry was back. They said it seemed he went home right after classes ended. I nodded, guessing his family probably had some urgent matter. Without thinking much of it, I sat down at my desk, opened a book, and started reading. It was getting late. I just wanted to wash up and go straight to sleep. Meanwhile, at the military hospital, Stella was fast asleep, but her sleep was restless. She seemed to be dreaming. She dreamed of me, pouring my heart out to her, but she rejected me. The next day, she left for the Southwest Army base. I failed the exam and couldn't get into university. The fact that I confessed to her was known by everyone. My mom fell ill because of it. Stella rushed back in the night, but when she returned, I had already been kicked out of the house, my whereabouts unknown. Even though it was Mom who cruelly drove her only son away, in a moment of anger, Stella still thought I would come back on my own after a few days. But day after day, year after year, she never saw me again. My mom eventually passed away in resentment, and Stella drowned in endless remorse. She had realized her true feelings, but the little brother she had raised and cared for since childhood never returned. And at that moment, Stella felt her heart was forever missing a piece, a void that could never be filled. That desolate and utterly terrified feeling jolted Stella awake. She gasped for air continuously. The events from her dream kept flashing in her mind. It was so incredibly real, as if she had truly experienced it. Stella suddenly recalled the story I told her during the day. It matched her dream perfectly. What if what I said was my actual experience? My words quietly echoed in her mind. Stella's eyes churned violently. So it was because I had tasted the bitterness that right after confessing in the past life, I immediately apologized to her in this life. I begged her not to mind, and I was fiercely determined to get into Crown U, giving up on Southwest U, which was closest to her. The more she thought about it, the more her head throbbed with excruciating pain. She furrowed her brows tightly. Fragments of memories that didn't belong to the present continuously flooded her brain. It took half an hour for it to stop. By then, the memories in her head had become incredibly clear. So, Dylan really had lived through a lifetime full of bitterness. The clearer she remembered, the more her heart ached. No wonder I had distanced myself from her since the college entrance exam. I wasn't angry when she treated me coldly. I even actively rejected her. In the past life, I died in a foreign land, and it was all related to her. Now that she understood the truth, she knew we had no possibilities left. Thinking of this, Stella's heart felt like it was sliced by knives. Looking at the moonlight outside the window, Stella couldn't close her eyes again. On the other side, I was completely oblivious, sleeping very soundly. The next day, I went to class with my roommate, but Harry still hadn't shown up. A flash of worry crossed my eyes. Did something serious happen to Harry? He had never skipped class since enrollment, yet now there was no sign of him. By noon, there was still no sign of Harry. I went back to the dorm to check, but he wasn't there either. Suddenly, a bad premonition surged in my heart. Sitting in the library reading, my mind was wandering aimlessly. Suddenly, Serena's voice rang out. Seeing me like this, she whispered, "What are you thinking about? You haven't turned the page in ages." I looked at Serena and said softly, "You're here. I haven't seen Harry all day. He didn't go to class either." I looked worried. She comforted me, "Don't worry, he's not a kid." Before she finished, two girls nearby were whispering, "That guy earlier was so pitiful. He worked so hard to get into Crown U, but his dad forced him to drop out." Right. In this day and age, who says studying is useless? His dad says getting married early is true stability. That family is destroying his future. I think he's a literature student named Harry or something. Hearing that, I sprang up instantly, startling the two girls. I demanded, "Where is the person you were just talking about?" "Probably at the faculty office." Hearing that, I sprinted straight out. Serena called after me. I hadn't even packed up my books. She quickly grabbed them and chased after me. The library was quite far from the faculty office. The path went past the main gate. As I ran to the gate, Serena pulled me back from behind. "They're over there." I stopped and looked back. I saw Harry being dragged by a burly man into a waiting car. I rushed over, yelling his name, but I couldn't stop them in time. By the time I reached the school gate, the car had sped away, leaving only a trail of white exhaust. I stood frozen, my heart plummeting into an abyss. I turned to Serena. Will I ever see him again? Serena was silent. She didn't know the answer either. I stood completely still for a moment, then resolutely walked toward the administration building. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to find the homeroom teacher. He definitely has Harry's home address." I had barely taken a step when Serena stopped me. "Do you really want to go to his house?" Looking into my determined eyes at that moment, Serena swallowed her words of caution. "All right, I'll go with you." A faint smile appeared on my lips. "Thank you." After getting the address from the teacher's office, we immediately headed to Harry's house. Stepping out of the car and looking at the traditional courtyard house in front of me. I took a deep breath and knocked. It took a while for someone to open it. As soon as the door cracked open, I saw a middle-aged woman who looked very much like Harry. I greeted her politely. "Hello, Auntie. I'm Dylan. I'm Harry's classmate. You must be his mother, right?" The middle-aged woman nodded slightly, but her eyes showed defensiveness. I maintained a gentle smile. "Auntie, I heard about his studies." Just then, I heard Harry's stubborn yell from inside. "Go ahead and beat me to death, Dad. Otherwise, I must go to school. I have to escape this suffocating house." Harry's mom, hearing this, lost all interest in us. She ran inside, cried, "Stop hitting him. He's our only son. Do you want to kill me?" Serena and I exchanged a glance and quickly followed her inside. Entering the room, I saw a middle-aged man furiously gripping a rattan cane, about to strike Harry. Without a second thought, I lunged forward and shielded Harry with my own body. Serena's face turned pale. She screamed my name, Dylan. Harry's dad only saw a shadow flash before his eyes. Thinking it was his wife, he hastily pulled back his swing. He was about to scold her, but realized the person shielding his son was a teenager around his son's age, a total stranger. He frowned and yelled, "Who are you? Why did you break into my house?" Harry was equally stunned. He looked at me in shock. "Dylan, why are you here?" Seeing the cane hadn't hit me, I broke out in a cold sweat from fear. "Hello, Suri. My name is Dylan. I'm Harry's classmate. My son isn't going to school anymore, so he doesn't have any classmates. Please leave, and don't ever come to the Huang family house again." He bluntly kicked me out, but I stood my ground, calmly asking him, "Sir, may I ask why?" I force him to go to school, so he learns to obey, not so he can come back and talk back to me. If studying doesn't make him obedient, what's the point of studying? Dad, you just want me to marry immediately. I've told you, even relying on my own strength, I can live well. Why won't you believe me? Harry's dad roared. "What do you know? I'm telling you to marry early, to marry someone of equal status, for your own good." Listening to their argument, I understood the root of the problem. Harry's dad actually loved his son very much. It was just that his mindset was outdated. I looked at him and smiled gently. "Sir, I know you love Harry very much. You want him to marry early to secure his future. But is marrying early really the way out? When you marry, you have to shoulder the burden of a family. What if, after getting married, the other person turns out to be a bad match? What then? Who would dare bully my son?" He growled. I said softly, "There are pains that can't be seen with the naked eye. So, instead of relying on marriage, wouldn't it be better to let him be independent, to have the ability to master his own life?" My words left the room in an eerie silence. Everyone's eyes fell on me. Harry's dad looked at me thoughtfully, a complex emotion flashing in his eyes. "Sir, there's really no need to force Harry to drop out. Let him continue his studies. See what he can achieve in the future. If he can prove that he can live well without relying on anyone, then whether he marries or not, or whether he marries the right person, won't be that important anymore." Harry's dad sneered. "Now I understand why my son suddenly got so bold. He learned it all from you. So what? Do you plan on never getting married in your life? Would your parents agree?" I shook my head slightly, explaining gently, "Sir, you misunderstood me. I never said I won't get married. I also desire a warm family. But I don't place all my hopes on the gamble of a married. Isn't a person's own independence their most reliable safety net?" Harry's dad went silent, seemingly lost in thought. Seeing his dad was wavering, Harry quickly stepped forward and acted sweet. "Dad, just trust me this once. I promise I will live a great life in the future." Harry's dad finally sighed heavily, not saying another word. Harry finally breathed a sigh of relief. He gave me a radiant smile. After leaving the Hung family house, Harry hugged me tightly. "Dylan, thank you so much. From now on, you are my lifelong soulmate." I laughed and patted his back, but then I heard him hiss in pain. I quickly asked, "What's wrong?" Harry winced and explained, "Even though you shielded me today, my dad already went at me yesterday. He hit me for real. It still hurts like crazy." I frowned in worry. "Then let's go to the hospital to get some ointment before heading back to school." Finally had a chance to speak. "Serena, thank you so much for today too." Harry grinned at her. Serena waved her hand, signaling it was nothing. The three of us got into Serena Santana and headed to Din Hospital. While waiting for the nurse to apply ointment for Harry, Serena pulled me aside. Her voice became very serious. "Dylan, when that cane came down, why did you recklessly jump in like that?" I scratched my head, looking innocent. "I don't know either. It was just a natural reflex. Serena sighed softly, unable to resist reaching out and tapping my forehead lightly. I'm really mad at you. Don't ever do that again. My heart almost jumped out of my chest. I rubbed my forehead. Okay, I promise, I won't do it again. Seeing me so obedient, Serena's eyes suddenly became incredibly gentle. She was about to say something else when a familiar voice rang out. Dylan. Serena and I both turned around. It was Stella, standing not far away, staring fixedly at us, seeing me being so intimate with another girl. The very same girl she had met in Phoenix Village. Stella felt incredibly uncomfortable. She desperately wanted to rush over and pull us apart. But after last night's dream, she understood she no longer had that right. Stella walked towards me and asked quietly, "Why are you at the hospital? Are you unwell?" "No, my friend got injured." I looked at her and gave a slight nod in greeting. She softly called, "Dylan, can we find a place to talk?" Seeing the hesitation clearly visible in my eyes, Stella couldn't help but feel heartbroken. She added, "About the story you told me yesterday. I have a few things to say." I was startled, wondering what she meant by this. Had she truly remembered the events of the past life? I quietly followed Stella to a secluded stone bench outside the hospital grounds. "What do you want to say?" I asked. Stella looked at me silently for a long time before speaking. "Dylan, I'm sorry. I remembered everything from our past life. It was because of me that your life was ruined. I am truly sorry." For some reason, hearing those words, my eyes suddenly welled up with tears. It was as if all the grievances from my past life had just been waiting for this exact moment. Seeing me about to cry, Stella looked flustered. "Dylan, don't cry. I was wrong. Your sister was wrong. Can you forgive me?" Hearing Stella refer to herself as my sister, I was slightly stunned again. "Dylan, I understand the bitterness of your past life. I know there's no possibility left between us. But please, don't push me away anymore. I will forever be your older sister, okay?" In Stella's warm eyes at this moment, for a split second, it seemed the older sister who used to spoil me had returned. I gave a relieved smile. "Yes, you will always be my sister." Stella smiled faintly, but deep in her heart, an endless sorrow surged. She carefully reached out her hand and rubbed my head, just like the old days. This time, I didn't die. All the resentment about the past life in my heart also gradually dissipated. The past was finally over. The future would definitely be beautiful. However, this intimate scene caught the eyes of Serena, who was standing far away. She mistakenly thought I had once again accepted Stella's feelings. Seeing the smiles on both our faces, she felt a profound sense of loss and utter disappointment. Then she felt angry out of fear that I hadn't woken up, fear that I would sink back into the mud of gossip. Seeing us walking side by side, Serena couldn't hold back anymore. She called out loudly, "Dylan, I want to talk to you." I was startled. I heard the sharpness in her voice. I turned and whispered to Stella, "I'll go first, then." Stella nodded. A flash of pain appeared in her eyes. But from Serena's perspective, she thought that even for a small matter, I had to report to Stella. This made her even more furious. Stella stood still, watching us disappear down the hallway. A strange sense of emptiness surged in her heart. She stood motionless for a long time before turning to her subordinate. "Let's go. We're returning to the military region right now." Serena led me to a quiet corner at the end of the hallway. Seeing her sad face, I awkwardly asked, "What's wrong? Did something happen? Why do you look so angry? Are you going to make up with her again?" She asked rapidly. I was stunned. I immediately understood the reason for her anger. Unconsciously, a normally cold corner of my heart melted completely. I raised an eyebrow and asked back, "Is that why you're mad? Do I even need to answer that? Have you forgotten what happened at the school gate?" Serena was now so angry, she was choking on her words. Her eyes clearly showed anxiety, mixed with disappointment. She stared intently at me, her voice suddenly becoming incredibly sorrowful. "You really not see my true feeling? Why do you always choose her?" Looking at her sad face, I truly didn't have the heart to let her misunderstand any further. I didn't choose her. Serena, who was drowning in sorrow, wondering if she should give up and wish me well, or stubbornly keep pursuing me, suddenly heard my gentle affirmation. It made her instantly overjoyed. "What did you just say? You didn't promise her anything. She and I just cleared the air. All the misunderstandings. I resolved. She will always just be my sister. That's it." Serena felt like she had just returned from the dead. She completely shed the heavy burden in her heart. At this moment, she understood more clearly than ever that she couldn't lose me. So, she bravely stepped right in front of me. Her eyes looked at me with burning intensity. "Dylan, I really like you. Can you give me a chance for us to be together?" Looking at the girl, sincerely confessing in front of me, memories of our beautiful times together flashed in my mind. In that moment, my heart became incredibly soft. I realized I wasn't entirely devoid of feelings for Serena. It was just because I had sacrificed too much for Stella before, and received nothing in return. I was afraid to open my heart. But now, I had let go of the past, towards someone who always cared, and treated me so well. Perhaps it was time I cherished, and grasped this fate. After a moment of consideration, I finally gave a slight nod. Serena's eyes lit up brilliantly. She was so happy, she stuttered. Dylan, you just agreed, right, Mama? I bravely looked deep into her gentle eyes, then nodded slightly once more. Serena's face showed clear excitement, but her hands were still a bit hesitant. She gently grabbed my hand, and when she felt me, tightly gripped her hand back. Serena felt utterly fulfilled. Dylan, I will treat you so well from now on. Serena and I stood together for a long time. After chatting a bit more, I gently pulled my hand back and said, let's go. Harry's probably done with his ointment. Serena nodded in agreement. The happy smile never left her lips. As we walked to the clinic door, we saw Harry walking out. I stepped up, patted his shoulder, and asked, how is it? Is the injury serious? Harry shook his head and laughed. It's fine. I nodded. Then the three of us left the hospital gate. As we were about to get in the car, Harry, out of habit, was going to open the door for me. But Serena quickly opened the passenger door for me first. Harry froze. He looked back and forth between us. Hey guys, there's something going on here that I don't know about, right? I smiled shyly, quickly getting into the back seat with him. Come on, we can just sit in the back. Serena raised an eyebrow and smiled, not pushing the matter. She closed the door, got into the driver's seat, and slowly drove the car away from the hospital. Harry wasn't going to let me off the hook. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, what exactly is going on between you two? Spill. We're fine. I pretended not to understand, putting on an extremely innocent and nonchalant face. Stop faking it. You accepted her confession, didn't you? Harry directly exposed my lie. Actually, I didn't want to hide it either. I was just a bit shy. Seeing Harry spell it out, I didn't twist or deny it anymore. I gave a slight nod of admission. Yeah. Harry finally felt like he had seen the clouds part to reveal the moon. He laughed teasingly. What are you thinking? He called up to Serena in the driver's seat. Hey, Serena, your long-held wish has finally come true. Shouldn't you treat us to a meal? Serena smiled and nodded. Of course. You named the place. We'll go right now. Harry shook his head. Just treating me isn't enough. You have to treat our whole dorm. Serena answered without hesitation. Deal. Then invite my whole dorm too. We'll all go eat together. Serena is truly generous. That's right. Through the rearview mirror, Serena's eyes met mine perfectly. We both smiled at each other. The group chose a state-run restaurant, not too far from Crown U. Harry was in charge of contacting everyone else. About half an hour later, everyone had arrived. Serena's roommate sat down and immediately asked her, Serena, what's the good news today? Why the sudden, massive treat? This is such a surprise. Of course it's because our Serena has good news to announce. Harry laughed mischievously. What good news? Tell us. The girls in the room chimed in curiously. We'll have to ask the two main characters right here. Harry gestured. At that moment, Serena and I were sitting next to each other. Being stared at by so many eyes made me a bit uncomfortable. The tips of my ears uncontrollably turned bright red. Serena's face was also flushed pink. Her hand under the table quietly reached over, tightly holding mine and squeezing gently to reassure me. All right, today's meal is to announce something important. Dylan and I are officially a couple. Awesome. Congratulations. You finally caught him. Congrats, Dylan. You're a lucky guy. What a perfect match. When you guys get married, remember to invite us for drinks. Hearing everyone's sincere blessings, I gave a bright smile and nodded in gratitude. Under the table, my hand tightly interlaced with Serena's. From then on, apart from classes, Serena and I were practically inseparable. Our relationship was so sweet that even Harry complained his teeth ached from the sweetness. At first, I was a bit shy. I told Serena we should show some restraint and keep a bit of distance in public, but Serena absolutely refused. She said she had worked so hard to become my girlfriend. She wanted to be by my side every second of every day. Influenced by her adorable shamelessness, I gradually relaxed and acted more naturally. During this time, Stella occasionally came to Crown U to find me. Sometimes she brought me things, sometimes she asked me out for a meal. I agreed to meet her, but throughout the process, I truly only treated her as a sister. There was absolutely no other romantic feeling. Stella saw through it all. In her heart, she bitterly realized there was no turning back. Time passed day by day. The weather began to enter the freezing winter. I was wearing a white padded coat with a black wool scarf wrapped around my neck. As soon as I walked out of the classroom, I saw Serena in an army green pilot jacket. She was wearing a scarf just like mine, but in a vibrant red. She was waiting there. Seeing me come out, she smiled brightly. She quickly walked up and greeted me. Are we going to the library now? I nodded. Yeah, exams are coming out. Gotta review thoroughly. You already study so hard normally. Even if you didn't review, you'd definitely pass. Don't exhaust yourself. Serena held my hand, looking a bit heartbroken. It's fine, I'm not tired. The two of us walked out of the lecture hall building, heading towards the library. On the way, we coincidentally ran into Harry, coming in from the school gate. Dylan, your sister is looking for you again. She's standing at the school gate right now, because Stella had come to crown you many times. Harry recognized her. I gave a slight nod. I could vaguely guess why she was here. Is the military really that free right now? Serena stood beside me, pouted, and rolled her eyes. She muttered a sarcastic remark. I glanced at her, finding it quite funny. Why don't you head to the library first? I'll go see her, and come right back. I'll go with you, Serena said. I nodded, in agreement. The two of us walked to the school gate together. As soon as she saw me, Stella's eyes lit up with a radiant smile. But when she saw the girl standing next to me, that smile suddenly froze. Did you need something? I asked. Stella tried to suppress her emotion. Her smile became forced and tinged with bitterness. I was thinking, you guys get a break to go home in a few days. I won't be able to go back until the end of the year. So I dropped by to check on you, and I wanted to ask exactly which day your break starts so I can buy your bus ticket in advance to make things easier for you. I was mentally calculating the days and preparing to answer, but Serena next to me quickly interrupted. No need for the trouble. He's going back with me. As for the tickets, of course, we'll buy them together. Stella looked at Serena deeply. Then she lowered her eyes. It took her a long time to force a smile, and replied, that's fine too. With you two going together, I can be at ease. After saying that, both sides fell silent. The atmosphere became suffocatingly quiet. Actually, Stella still wanted to stay and chat with me a bit longer, but she understood she should leave right away. Well, I'm leaving. You two go inside. I nodded. Okay, we'll go in. Drive safe. Saying that, Serena and I turned our backs and walked inside the school gate. Stella stood there, silently watching our backs as we walked side by side. The girl whispered something in the boy's ear, making a bright, incredibly happy smile bloom on his face. Her heart was filled with misery. If it weren't for those mistakes in the beginning, the person standing next to him right now would probably be her. Unfortunately, what's done is done. Time never flows backwards. After finishing my exams, Serena and I returned to Phoenix Village together. We were in a familiar white Centaur. The car stopped right in front of the Smith family house. As I was about to open the door and get out, Serena tightly grabbed my hand. Her eyes were full of reluctance. What about our situation? What should we do? I immediately shook my head. Now is not the right time. Let me find a chance to talk to my family first. You just go home for now. Serena had no choice but to compromise. All right. But her hand still didn't want to let go. Just as I was about to say a few more words to reassure her, I suddenly heard my mom's voice outside the car. Dylan, is that you? I jumped in shock. I quickly turned my head and met the eyes of both my mom and dad. At that moment, I truly just wanted to find a hole to crawl into. I couldn't help but turn and glare at Serena reproachfully. Serena also didn't expect to be caught red-handed like this, but she quickly regained her composure. You two should get out. I stepped forward and hugged my parents. I'm back. Serena also politely greeted them. Hello, uncle and auntie. We've met before. I'm Serena. My mom looked back and forth between us, her expression hard to read. I became even more nervous, not daring to make a peep. It took a long while before my mom finally spoke to Serena. I know you're Dylan's classmate. Thank you for bringing him all the way home. It's getting cold. You should hurry home before it gets late. Serena originally thought they would interrogate us about our relationship, our private matter, but she didn't expect my mom to tactfully tell her to go home. She momentarily felt a bit disappointed. I felt the same, but I immediately pulled myself together and told Serena to head back first. Serena had no other choice but to drive away. After going inside, my parents asked about my studies and daily life. Then, they abruptly cut straight to the issue with Serena. Are you and that girl, Serena, dating? We know, but we don't want to force you. I gave a slight nod, admitting it. What about Stella? I quickly explained. I already made things clear to her. She knows perfectly well. But my relationship with Serena is right now. Don't worry, Mom and Dad. It's fine. Hearing me clarify things, my mom could finally breathe a sigh of relief. In the days that followed, I went with my parents to buy New Year's goods, cleaned up, and decorated the house together. Occasionally, I sneaked out to hang out with Serena. Just like that, in the blink of an eye, New Year's Eve arrived. Didn't Stella say she was coming home today? It's getting late in the afternoon. Why haven't we seen her yet? Mom stood at the door, constantly looking out, waiting for her to return. Mom, don't worry too much. She said she'd be back, so she definitely will be. Look, she's back. Just as I finished speaking, a jeep from afar came driving towards us. The car stopped right in front of the house. Stella stepped out. Seeing me and Mop, she quickly walked over. Dylan. Mom, I'm home. It's good that you're home. I was afraid you wouldn't make it in time for the reunion dinner, but the family. I also smiled and welcomed her. The three of us walked into the house together. The New Year's Eve feast was neatly arranged on the table. A family of 4 happily gathered around, eating a warm reunion dinner. Dad and Stella were in high spirits and drank a few extra glasses, but because Dad couldn't handle his liquor well, Mom had to help him to his room to rest first. A hint of tipsiness appeared on Stella's face too. She rested her chin on her hand, leaning against the chair. I asked softly, "Are you drunk too?" Stella shook her head slightly. The arrogant look in her eyes would completely gone. She looked straight into my eyes, looking at the younger brother in front of her. It was as if she was trying to suppress some urge. Dylan, I've never asked you, are you truly happy now? I answered without a hint of hesitation. Of course, right now, I'm truly very happy. Stella gave a slight nod. Then that's good. Saying that, she stood up. I bought some fireworks. Let's go out to the yard and light them together. I followed her out to the yard, holding the small sparklers. I happily waved them in the air. Stella quietly watched my radiant smile. Under the glow of the fire, a faint smile slowly bloomed on her lips. Maybe this was it. Being able to stand beside him, simply, as an older sister. Perhaps that was already the greatest mercy the heavens could grant her.